A girl raised in an orphanage, who was later adopted, decides to return to renovate it and create a home for disabled children. But not everything goes according to her plans, because she will have to play a children's game. Hey guys, this is Afraid, and you are watching The Orphanage. Let's get into it. The film begins in an orphanage back in the day. Children's play outside in 1, 2, 3, freeze. Foster parents are about to come for the girl named Laura. Many years pass, and as an adult, Laura, along with her husband, Carlos, live in this orphanage and raises her foster son, Simon. In the middle of the night, the boy continues to call his mother. The father, pretending to get up, turns away and continues to sleep. Simon says he hears someone outside, and his mother is playing along. Simon knows that Laura used to live in this house and asked her if she was afraid, to which she replied, no, because she wasn't lonely. Simon also asked about the children who should get to live in this house, not understanding why they were supposed to come and stay there. In the morning, workers bring furniture into the house while Laura and her husband play the piano. Simon runs up to ask if his dad will go with them to the lighthouse. The thing is that last night, Laura promised Simon that they will go to the cave near the lighthouse. Later, after Simon left, Laura started talking about Simon's imaginary friends, saying that they need to talk to him seriously about it. Carlos doesn't think so. He thinks it's all normal at his age, and when the kids come to the house, Simon will forget about his imaginary friends. As Laura had promised, they would go to the cave. As soon as they reached the entrance to the cave, Laura took out the flashlight and gave it to Simon, who did not think twice and rushed into the cave. In a dark, scary cave, there is something wrong with this boy, but even more wrong with his mother, who lets her son go alone into the cave and stays at the entrance. Later, Laura decides it's time to go home and calls out Simon. Doesn't answer. Then his mother decides to go look for him. As the mother is walking up, we can hear Simon talking to someone. He was calling someone to play at his house. Laura asked what he was doing, and Simon replied that they were playing. He also said it wasn't his old friends, it was a new one. Laura wondered who he was chatting with. Maybe there really was someone there, but she didn't notice anyone. When they all go home, Simon makes a trail of seashells so his new friend can find the way to their house. One rainy evening, a car pulls up to the house, and an elderly woman gets out and knocks on the door. Her name is Benigna Escobedo. From their conversation, we learn that Laura grew up here, and in memory of that, she is renovating the house to make it a small shelter for the disabled. Benigna says that she is a social assistant, but she is here because of Simon, and more specifically, because of his illness. Simon is a vector for HIV infection, but for Laura, this is nothing new. Benigna says that a new method of treatment has been found, but Laura refuses. Simon does not know he is adopted and that he is ill. It's night. There are noises and knocks somewhere. Laura wakes up to the sounds and tries to wake up her husband, but he is deeply asleep. She decides to go and find out where the strange noises are coming from. It turns out that the sounds are coming from an abandoned house with junk, and of course, Laura decides to go inside. It turns out that it was the crazy granny, Benigna, inside the abandoned house. Laura is shocked and stunned, but the granny starts to run away, and Laura wakes Carlos up. In the morning, Laura goes outside and sees a pile of shells near the door, which Simon has scattered when they went home, but for some reason, she does not take it seriously. After that, Laura notices Simon's drawing and asks him about these fancy drawings. Simon starts talking about some kind of game. They, Simon's friends, take from you your treasure, what you love the most, and they hide it. You must be able to find what they have hidden through some clues. Simon confesses that his treasure is some gold coins, and Laura decides to help him find them. The first clue is Simon's milk teeth. Laura remembers very well where she had put them, but in the place where the teeth were, there was only sand. Here's the second clue, the sand, which could only be around their house, so in the garden. In fact, in the garden, they found the third clue, the sewing box, where they found some matryoshka dolls, and inside one was a key. The key to the kitchen drawer. In the drawer, there were files about Simon's illness, an adoption, and some coins. Finding the coins, Simon is uncontrollably happy because he thinks he now has a wish. Laura thinks Simon took the papers and moved them from their proper place. Simon starts to get mad and again says that it is not him but his friends. Laura says that she does not like that Simon constantly lies. He tells that the only one who lies is Laura, because she says that she's the real mother, but in fact, she's not. Simon says that a friend of his, Thomas, told him that Laura was not his mother, and that Simon was going to die. At that point, Simon, being very angry, leaves. Of course, Laura is shocked, and they decide together with Carlos to talk to Simon seriously. Carlos thinks that Simon saw how Laura talked with that granny, Benigna, and saw what was in the bag with his case and invented this game because he was afraid to ask about what he found out. The day of the opening of the orphanage comes. Guests and disabled children arrived. Laura calls Simon to come down, but Simon urgently needs to show her Thomas's place. Laura promises to take a look tomorrow, but Simon gets angry and naughty again. In the meantime, the masquerade is in full swing. Everyone wears creepy masks as if they were celebrating Halloween, and Laura notices Benigna, but it turns out it's not her. It's just this look that's in fashion. Among all the kids running around and laughing, there is one weird kid with a very creepy kind of sack on his head. On his blouse is probably written his name, Tomas. Is this the Thomas that Simon was talking about? Laura starts looking for Simon because she hasn't seen him at the feast and walks all the way to the bathroom. She hears someone blowing a whistle and sees a creepy boy of Simon's height. This kid starts growling, making strange noises, and gets closer and closer to Laura. Laura thinks that this is Simon and tries to remove his mask. Suddenly, the little boy pushes Laura with impressive force. Laura was about to fall, and trying to hold herself up, the little boy slammed the door on her fingers. The boy locks the door and runs away. Laura desperately screams for help. Carlos and Laura immediately begin searching for Simon during the party. Once outside, she began to check every child wearing a mask. She runs to the lighthouse hoping to find him there. But the tide comes in. She falls and breaks her leg. Laura notices Simon's silhouette, but Carlos says that no one is there and tries to save Laura. A police search squad is searching for Simon. Meanwhile, Laura is in the hospital because her leg is broken. Judging by her appearance, she has been given medicines for her recovery. Then Carlos visits Laura with a police psychologist named Pilar. Laura is depressed, and Carlos decides to cheer her up and gives her a medallion to bring her luck, but he specifies that it is not a gift and that when she will find Simon, she will have to return it. At night, Laura hears the same whistling that the weirdo in the mask was making. She rides out in her wheelchair to take a look and hears a loud rumbling noise. In one room, she finds an Annabelle doll. Just kidding. She finds a regular doll on a bed under the blanket. Could this be a clue? What do you think? After 6 months, winter has arrived. Simon is not found, and the parents go somewhere in the city. Stopping at a traffic light, Laura notices the damn granny, Benigna, and calls her. She turns her head and is violently hit by a car. By the way, keep in mind that Granny was hit by an ambulance. In the carriage, there was a doll with a mask, the mask of the weird kid who pushed Laura. Carlos is trying to do CPR, but it's useless. Benigna's jaw is completely deformed. Laura notices that Benigna Escobedo has a whistle around her neck, which she has already heard from the masked little boy. The moment she tried to grab it, the apparently dead Benigna's hand grabbed Laura's wrist. We are brought into a conversation between Laura and Pilar. The psychologist says that old cassettes and photo cards were found in Benigna's house. Benigna herself is standing in one of the pictures with Laura as a child and her friends. It turns out Benigna worked at the orphanage. When looking through the cassette tapes, it turns out that Tomas, who Simon has often talked about, is Benigna's son. Thomas was born with a deformity and was kept separated from the others. Benigna, his mother, often kept him hidden from the others and wouldn't let him go out without the bag over his head. Pilar said that one day, Thomas suddenly disappeared while he was playing. One of the children confessed that they wanted to play a joke on Thomas in the cave and had pulled the sack off his head. Thomas never came out of the cave, and they found him drowned in the water. Laura says she saw Thomas on the day of the masquerade, but Pilar says everyone has been questioned and no one has seen him. A little later, we see a recording of Thomas without the bag on his head. The poor kid could only see with one eye because the other was covered by his skin. That's why his bag has only a hole in the left eye. At night, Laura was trying to sleep. Someone goes to her bed. She feels him, but mistakes him for her husband. But Carlos was not there. Then Carlos enters the room, and Laura doesn't understand who had crawled under the covers. During the scene before, we can observe that whoever had crawled under the blanket was the height of a child, like Simon. A medium named Aurora, along with her team, visit Laura and Carlos's home to try and communicate with the spirits, if they are there. A medium is someone who can communicate with souls on the other side. After installing all the necessary tools, Aurora starts the transition process. After Aurora enters a deep trance, she begins to feel cold and hears some children's voices. She begins to move towards the sound. She finally finds the room and hears children screaming inside. Some say they are sick, some are crying, and some want to get out. After the door opens, the children continue to scream. According to Aurora's words, they are all crying and sick. The children say that someone wants to kill them. The next day, she claims that when something terrible happens in a place, it leaves a trace in time, a kind of knot. In the end, Aurora confesses that those who are close to death are much more likely to see and communicate with these spirits. It was then that Laura understood the message, but Carlos gets nervous and wants to kick these people out. Carlos removes all leads on the search for Simon and tells Laura that it would be time to move on. But Laura won't give up. She loves Simon too much. The next day, Laura entered the room where Aurora had heard the children screaming. Instantly, the window closed quickly and broke into 1,000 pieces. Laura tries to call Simon's invisible friends. Then she finds boxes with dolls of children from the orphanage, as well as her picture of Simon together. Laura thinks they decided to play with her, and she agrees to the game. After that, she starts looking for clue after clue, just as she had done with Simon. She noticed some objects of Benigna's and noted that she was trying to open a little door. Apparently, Benigna was trying to open that little door that night. Laura tries to open it, but can't, so she tries to do it the old-fashioned way. She starts hitting it with her foot. Eventually, she manages to break down the door and find sacks inside. After taking them out, she starts to open them. She was breathless and began to shake after seeing human skulls. At first, she thought they were Simon's bones, but in reality, Laura realizes that they were all bones and skulls of the children from the orphanage, her old friends. Benigna wanted revenge after Thomas died as a result of the little joke played by the children. Carlos asked for the last time to leave, but Laura only asked him for 2 more days. She wanted to finish the game. Later, she begins to reconstruct things as they were when she was a child in the orphanage, and she dressed up as an orphanage worker. She rings the dinner bell and then calls the children to dinner. After arranging the children's favorite dolls to the chairs, the meal begins, but they show no sign of being there, and then Laura gets frustrated. Towards evening, she tried to play with the kids, as they did when she was little. The game begins, and all the children show up. According to the rules of the game, someone has to touch Laura's shoulders, and then everyone has to run away. Laura follows a little girl that took her to a room with garbage. In it, there was a secret door. Opening it, she finds a dark basement and starts to go down inside. Trying to open the light, a silhouette of Simon appears behind her, but immediately disappears. Inside the basement, there were several drawings and photos, but the most important thing, Laura found a bed inside, which was Simon. Laura, in tears, began to hug and kiss him. Laura, holding Simon in her arms, tried to deny the existence of children in the house and closed her eyes. After opening them, Simon was no longer there in her arms. Everything became darker. The light was off. Laura observed Thomas's clothes and mask on the floor. Laura continued to tremble and weep. After taking off the mask, Laura starts screaming desperately because under that mask there was Simon. The child's body was dry and without any sign of life. She picked him up and carried him to the children's room. She kept taking pills, and after a while, she raised her head and said, her wish is to have Simon. The light from the lighthouse began to light up the house. Simon got up from his mother's arms and said his wish for finding the coins was to take care of him and his friends. The kids began to laugh happily, and Laura began to tell them stories. After some time, we see how Carlos came to the tombstone to mourn his wife and put flowers. Carlos walks around the house and finds the medallion that he gave her for luck. After he finds the medallion, the door opens in front of him. So he must have realized that she returned the medallion, which means she found Simon. So to really understand what happened here, let me explain. The kids, aka Simon's friends, decided to play with Laura after taking from her what she loved most, Simon. Laura decides to play along. All she wanted was to see Simon again. Remembering what Aurora told her, which is that those who are close to death have a better chance of communicating with the spirits, Laura decides to commit suicide, consuming all those pills. After dying, she manages to see Simon again, who was already dead. My overall rating for this movie, on a scale of 1 to 10, would be a solid 8. I wasn't expecting such an ending, and it wasn't easy to figure out at first glance what happened at the end. How much would you rate this movie? Let me know down in the comments, and tell me which movie you would like to see next. If you enjoyed this video, press that like button and subscribe to not miss horror movies like this one. And as always, stay afraid.